I rise in full support of the amendment that is before us. I want to express my appreciation to Senator Perillo for bringing out this amendment. It is a very, very sensible thing to do. You know, this is one of our larger bills, Senate Bill 6. It's got a multitude of sections, and this amendment more or less removes the two sections that I think many of us around the circle today find somewhat offensive, and keeps the rest of the more sensible sections of the bill intact. It's our effort, you know, to work together, to compromise, to try and find a way forward to move this legislation forward. But I do find sections 5 and 6 very objectionable. If you are someone who's been concerned about the summer camp sections of the bill and have noted that they are sections 6 and 7, I just want to update you that there is a more recent revision, strike all amendment, if you will, to the bill, and now those sections are no longer 6 and 7, but they are now 5 and 6, which is why, if there's any confusion about why those are the sections we're attempting to remove, they're the same as the 6 and 7 that you were accustomed to. Senator Summers, she did a fantabulous job. That's a new word. I just made it up for this occasion, in describing the concerns with this bill, which is that, number one, you're talking about shifting something that has been working, the municipal summer camps all across our state, shifting the responsibility of running that operation to a state agency that doesn't have any experience in that regard and can only do it at a distance. Why would we be trying to create a far-off bureaucracy to try and mandate its will on these individual summer camps in the respective towns across our state? I got to believe that they're not all the same. I got to believe that summer camp in Waterbury is not the same as it is in Goshen. And I don't think that the Office of Early Childhood has the people on staff or the expertise to manage that situation. I also understand that if we were able to do this shift, we're talking about expending a lot of taxpayer money to grow that bureaucracy and empower it to do that. As Senator Summers pointed out, why? I don't see a benefit to that. You know, this whole thing, I think, may be before us because of a terrible set of circumstances that was mentioned where someone was abused. And I see this happen all the time, where there is a crisis that occurs somewhere, and immediately there's got to be a reaction. We've got to pass a law somehow to address it. It's always funny, though, that the law that is attempted to pass doesn't really reflect the problem or solve the problem to begin with, and I think that's the case here. You know, there's been a lot of conversation about, you know, having state control and about background checks and so forth, but my understanding is in that circumstance, there would have been no way with background checks being changed or added or anything like that to have changed the outcome there. So why are we doing this to all of the well-run municipal summer camps that exist across our state? It's a mystery to me. I haven't heard a good reason for why we should do this. But I can say that in my experience, big government is not the answer. I would much rather have local control where the people that are on the ground are actually from the community, where they're actually have their own kids involved or grow up with the, you know, the parents and neighbors of the children that go to these camps. And think about the impact here. If what we're saying is true, and I believe it is, that if you impose all of these new requirements and regulations on the municipalities to meet these requirements for a number of bathrooms and how far the trash cans are apart and all that stuff, and they're not in a position to be able to do all of that, what happens next? Either one, they're going to have to raise local property taxes substantially to go ahead and comply with these things. I don't think anyone wants or needs that, especially when there's no problem that is that we're faced with. And second, and more concerning to me, is that I believe that some of these camps will actually cease to exist. And that just cannot happen in my view. I know far too many of my own constituents that rely on the municipal summer camps to make sure that they have childcare, that there is an opportunity for their kids to experience summer camp. Those two things are critical in my mind. Why would we be wanting to even take the chance to diminish those two important obligations, I believe, that we have as a state government to protect for our constituents? kids being able to go to summer camp, and the fact that there are a lot of folks struggling with the lack of affordability in our state that need help with childcare. Those two things are real, and they're palpable in this amendment. If we can pass this amendment, we can persist with the status quo. I don't mind making some adjustments around the edges that might improve this situation. I think that is a worthwhile conversation. But to me, this is using a bomb to solve a very small problem. You're effectively going to undermine the existence of these municipal summer camps all across our state. Just in the last 24 hours, I've got a dozen or so panicked messages from the folks in Connecticut, in my own district, that are realizing what can happen here and that their programs that they run may cease to exist. I think we have an obligation to the people back home, our municipal leadership, not to mention our constituents, to think twice before we act in such a significant way. I wholeheartedly support this amendment. I'm reaching out to my colleagues across the aisle, and I'm pleading with you to slow down. This is something we don't want to do in a hurry. It's not necessary. It deserves more attention and more conversation before it happens, because once this bill becomes law, the damage will be done. And I don't know that we can restore those municipal summer camps as fast as we can tear them down. I encourage my colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amendment B of Senate Bill number 6. Total number voted 35. Total voted yea 14. Total voted nay 21. Absent, not voting 1.
Amendment fails.
A couple of questions for the proponent of the bill, if I could.
Please proceed. Prepare yourself, Senator Marr.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I just want to start by bringing this all back to square one, which is, I think if there is a bone of contention in this bill, it has to do with sections 5 and 6. So I'd like to just ask, through you, Madam President, simply what is the purpose of these two sections? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Marr.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, Madam President, the purpose of these two bills is to OEC oversees camps. OEC oversees child care. Municipal camps are also child care. It is to have unity across how we look at children and keep them safe in our state by licensing all camps and child care.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate that, except I failed to understand how OEC, which is a state agency, the Office of Early Childhood, which will be a distant state agency, not local, not direct within the community, not made up of people that live in the town or parents or neighbors of the children involved, can do a better job than the people that are local. So I think the gentlelady was trying to imply that somehow because OEC already oversees other types of camps other than municipal camps, that somehow they would be in better hands than they would be in the municipality. Am I correct about that, through you, Madam President?
Thank you, Senator Marr.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, when there is any issue in a camp, there are protocols, procedures, processes by which you report it to OEC, and then they have oversight on those issues. Currently, there is nothing like that in the municipal camps. They can report it up into the first select person or the mayor or whomever, the municipal camp leadership, and that is where it stays. There is no further oversight. Whereas here, there are processes and procedures by which they deal with issues that arise.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
And thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate that answer, although I don't know that I really am following very closely. You said that there was no process, and then you said that they could obviously report it within the municipality to the local police department and the first selectman or the mayor or so forth. There is an entity involved. I mean, the town government is directly involved in overseeing these camps. So I wouldn't say that's an accurate response to say there is no such parallel. And in fact, I'd argue that the town is far better equipped to handle it than a far-off state agency. I mean, think about all of the state agencies that we deal with on every subject under the sun, whether it's the Department of Motor Vehicles, or the Department of Labor, or DCF, which seems to come to mind because we are talking about almost a parallel situation where you had a terrible tragedy uncovered, and rather than recognizing that there was a state agency that may have dropped the ball, may have not followed up when it needed to, may have not done its due diligence to find out what the facts were and get to the bottom of the situation, there was a quick rush to go and blame the homeschool community. Well, here in this situation, it looks like there's a rush to go and blame municipal camps. Through you, Madam President, is there any statistical evidence to suggest that kids are less safe in a camp run by a municipality than one that's overseen by the Office of Early Childhood? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Mark.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I do not have that data.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Well, that's interesting because it seems to me that the majority's entire support of the bill that is before us is based on that premise. That's what we keep hearing over and over again throughout this debate, is that we're trying to protect children, we're trying to protect children, we're trying to protect children, and that's why we want to make sure that we have the OEC have oversight. But there's no data to suggest that the OEC would be any better at it than the municipality would be. I would come armed with that data if I was trying to make that claim personally. And I think without it, I think it's a very difficult claim to make because I don't think it's true. I also think that we're all trying to protect children, but I'll also point out we had an amendment on the floor a little while ago that goes directly to what happened in Bethany, Connecticut. A terrible tragedy, no doubt, that we're all upset about, but we put an amendment on the floor to actually do something directly about it, to say that people that engage in that kind of behavior should be punished. And sadly, that amendment failed on party lines. There are a lot of other consequences to this legislation, frankly, which is why I'm standing here. Been here a while, Madam President, and I will tell you that for a while there I was thinking that I wasn't going to be surprised anymore. But I'm surprised again today because I think this conversation that has been going on for several hours has been extremely enlightening. And there are certain things that we know for sure, and there are certain things we don't know for sure. We just established that we don't know for sure that there's any difference in how safe a child's going to be under OEC versus a municipality. Nothing to suggest that there is a difference. And I would argue that the town is much better equipped. Because I think that they probably care more, frankly, than a far-off state agency. But the things that we know for sure is that as long as Sections 5 and 6 of this bill become law, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people in this state will be adversely affected. That we know for sure. So I'm weighing the things that we know for sure versus the things we don't know for sure. If this bill passes, municipalities have already come to us, and frankly, they are panicking. You know, we have bills that we discuss in the chamber, and sometimes we get emails from constituents and they're like, hey, you know, you should vote for this or you shouldn't vote for this. That's not what's happening here. The emails that I'm getting from people in my district on this bill are panicking. They are really scared. They don't know what's going to happen. Just like the homeschoolers who came up here in the thousands, they were scared. They were scared of their own government. Imagine that. They were scared their own government was going to turn on them and take their rights away from them. And these parents are scared to death that they're going to lose an extremely important opportunity for their children and for themselves. They don't know what they're going to do about making sure that they have summer camp for their kids to go to, which is going to be a burden on them trying to find a replacement for caring for their kids during the summer months. Not to mention the fact that what a loss. I went to summer camp. I'd venture to guess that most people in this room went to summer camp. I think it would be terrible if there were a lot less summer camps in the state. And that is one of those things we know for sure. If this bill passes, at the very least, property taxes are going up all across Connecticut, because the requirements that are in this bill are going to cause every town that has a municipal summer camp to change their rules, the number of people that are working there, all kinds of things that are going to generate costs that will be passed on to the people that live in that community. I don't know about anybody else, but my constituents can't bear any more property taxes. They can't. I'm hearing from people day after day that they can't afford to pay their electric bills, or they're having to choose between groceries and paying their utility bill. We cannot just willy-nilly, based on things we're not sure of, be adding costs to the people that we represent. And we know for sure this will add costs. But worse than that is I believe that there are a number of these camps that will cease to exist as a direct result of this legislation. And that's what I'm surprised about, is that we're still debating this even though that is something we're sure of. We're not sure anyone's going to be any safer, but we are sure some kids are not going to have summer camp. That's the vote today. That's what this is about. It seems pretty simple to me. If we want to address terrible tragedies, then let's address terrible tragedies. That was what we attempted to do with our amendment. It's what we've been trying to do as a minority party for years, is to restore our system of criminal justice in the state of Connecticut to prevent tragedy. There's a lot more to add to this conversation, and I don't want to keep repeating the things that have been said before. However, I cannot express more sincerely the fact that the people on the street are concerned, and they are scared, and they need us to act in their best interest, which means weighing the information that we have, not just forcing through a policy because that's what seems to be on the agenda for the day. I know me. I walk into meetings sometimes and I'm convinced that I know the answer to a question and that I'm ready to act. I'm going to vote yes or I'm going to vote no. But I will tell you, many times since I've come here, I have learned information in a meeting that has changed my mind. Even in this debate, I have heard things, and honestly, from unexpected sources that have made me think even deeper about it, which is what drove me to stand up here a second time. I spoke on the amendment earlier, but I'm getting up a second time because I'm really passionate about this now. I'm concerned. I'm scared for the people I represent. First off, I don't want them feeling like their state government is turning on them. And more importantly, I am very, very concerned that summer camp is not going to be a viable option for people in the future. There's no reason for that. There's no reason to rush into this policy today. We could easily hold off on this. We could pause this bill. We could amend it into a study. We could do a million things. But going forward with sections 5 and 6 and making them law is going to change the world if it passes. And before you make a change like that, you should be prepared for the consequences, because I promise I am going to track this. I'm going to find out what happens as a result of this policy, and I will be here to remind everyone. And frankly, I hope the majority's right. I hope that at the end of the day, all that happens is that kids are safer. But I don't buy it, not based on what I know for sure. What I know for sure is that we're going to end up losing these summer camps. And that's a shame, frankly. Thank you, Madam President.
Bill number 6, as amended by Senate A and C. Total number voting 34. Total voting yea 22. Total voting nay 12. Absent not voting 2.